Hello everyone, and welcome back to Voice Talks. It has been way too long and too much has happened. I'm Sofia Altuna and your host for this monthly voice series. So Voice Talks took a break last month because we had two very special events in the industry, Voice 2020 and Google Assistant Developer Day. Voice 2020 took place over 10 days, discussing literally everything you want to know about voice. Some of the talks I love included the secret life of conversational designers, diving deep into persona design, and the voice and behavior of digital assistants. And then we also shared a little behind the scenes of Voice Talks, so if you're interested and curious, definitely check it out. At Google Assistant Developer Day, the team shared a lot of new features. And today, we're going to be putting these announcements into action, specifically with smart displays, discussing the magic that happens when visual meets voice in the home. For those of you who missed the Google Assistant Developer Day or maybe just want a refresher, here's a short clip featuring the highlights.
We're both proud and inspired that so many global brands, such as Walmart, Sony, Snap, and eBay, and many others, have joined us in the mission to help people get things done more easily.
Starting today, users can set up and explore suggested shortcuts by simply saying, "Hey Google, shortcuts."
This is the new voice.
Each of you plays an important role in the vision of this next ambient era. And we're humbled by how many amazing developers and brands all over the world have built on the platform already.
The video pumps me up every time I see it. Needless to say, it's been a very busy year in voice. A recent publication by Juniper Research also estimated that there will be 8 billion voice assistants being used globally in 2023. That's in only 3 years, compared to 2.5 billion at the end of 2018. As many of you have experienced yourself, with more people staying at home this year, we saw a huge increase in traffic from home devices. And in a sea of smart home devices, smart displays really brings it all together. It's been very exciting personally to watch how smart displays are becoming the technology hub for our homes. It helps us do everything from controlling our smart home with practical actions like turning on and off your lights, the thermostat, your TV, or thousands of other appliances, to also getting immediate answers by just simply asking the question out loud, to doing more involved tasks like guiding you through a recipe while you're cooking or playing interactive games with your family. And as you just saw in the highlights reel, our teams, our partners, and the ecosystem have been all hard at work at improving and increasing what you can do with these devices, taking a major step in bringing the ambient computing vision to life. So in this episode, we're gonna go deep into the smart display space, starting with a keynote from Rebecca Nathanson, Director of Product Management at Google Assistant, and she'll be joined by Sidwell from Pottermore. Then we'll have a product talk from Selig, Product Manager of Google Nest, discussing the connection between the smart display, mobile devices, and televisions. Following, we'll have a partner spotlight with Kailyn Mason from our global business development team. interviewing David Rutnick, the Senior Vice President of Interactive Monetization at Visio. And then we'll welcome back Jessica Dene Erlicha for her Ask the Expert segment, going into depth on how to implement these incredible features. And finally, for the ecosystem update, we're going to welcome John Kelvey from Bespoken to discuss how to test complex queries and the rigors they use in evaluating devices. Now, there's a little magic coming up in this next segment with Pottermore bringing to life the worlds of Harry Potter. So I would love to know from you, how do you use your smart display to add a little magic to your daily routine? You can answer this in the comment section below or by using the hashtag AskSophia on Twitter. And as you know, we're going to be sharing your answers later on for a very special surprise. Now let's welcome our first guest, Rebecca Nathanson, who will be joined by Graham Sidwell from Pottermore. Take a look.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Nathanson, and I lead the Assistant Developer Platform product team here at Google. I'm excited to be here with you today to share some new tools that we just announced to improve the developer experience and discovery for Google Assistant. And I also have a special guest we'll bring in at the end. So let's jump in. Given how much more time we're all spending at home these days, smart displays have become an even more important and central device in many households. In my home, for instance, it's our command center for our smart home devices. And when we're not using our smart display to keep an eye on the air quality map, we're playing interactive games or listening to Frozen stories with my son. And our family's not alone. Consumers are quickly discovering the range of experiences smart displays offer to enhance and simplify life around the house. People love being able to not just listen to stories, but interact with them. And they rely on the assistant to talk them through the process of making dinner step by step, including pictures. Because when you're trying out that new biscuit recipe, it really helps to see what pat out the dough really means. And with all the kinds of things assistant users are asking for, there are so many opportunities for developers like you to deliver the service or experience they're looking for. In fact, we've seen the number of assistant queries that have been fulfilled by third parties more than double over the last year. And we expect the trend to continue as both the ecosystem and user engagement grow. So I'm excited to share new tools to make it easier to build immersive and interactive experiences for Assistant smart displays that users will love, as well as to share with you how we're helping to make it easier for them to discover what you build. For starters, we just announced the expansion of our Interactive Canvas API. Now, in addition to games, you can build storytelling and education experiences for Assistant using simple technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Who knows, maybe you'll build the next hit storytelling experience that will get my son to actually sit still at the table long enough to finish his breakfast. Next, we've heard from Assistant developers that you want the choice to use your favorite tools to enable your action development. So we've been working with partners like Jovo and VoiceFlow to support a robust ecosystem of third-party tools that let you build native Assistant apps in your favorite IDE. One of the great new capabilities is communal access to logged-in apps, which means that if one person has logged into a premium account for an Assistant experience, everyone can get access to it. We also just introduced 2 new English voices that take advantage of an improved prosody model to make Assistant sound more natural, as well as the Actions Testing API to test your critical user journeys in a programmatic manner, and enhanced dialogue design and editing in Actions Builder. These are all designed to offer a more flexible and seamless development flow. And once you've published your action, we have updates to share on how we're making it easier for users to discover it. First off, we're rolling out better browsing for smart displays, where users can explore great experiences from developers like you. One example, the Learning Hub, will make it much easier for people to find educational experiences where your actions will be organized by category. That's right, your actions, because we're opening up educational BIIs for public registration, allowing easier discovery and more natural invocation. Education isn't the only one, however. We're also opening up storytelling. When a user says, "Tell me a story," they'll be able to see your actions, cleanly organized and available with a simple word or touch. Now, when you create an app in any of these domains, games, education, or storytelling, you can register for organic traffic. That's 3 broad intents open to the developer ecosystem. We'll continue to invest in discoverability improvements that are built into the platform. But we know you also want tools to drive growth through your channels. For that, we introduced rich assistant links, which are easy to generate dynamic URLs that can send a user directly to your action or to any assistant feature based on the device that they're using. Finally, we know your business matters, and we're investing in more ways for users to transact easily and securely through Assistant via voice or touch. We're launching CVC confirmation for smart displays to enable seamless and secure transactions. We look forward to sharing even more monetization tools soon. We're excited about these updates, and we're committed to continuing to invest in our core developer experience, as well as in tools to help you grow on the platform. Now, I'd like to bring in a special guest so you can hear directly from a developer who's been through the process, building a new experience that we have a hunch people are going to love. I'm pleased to welcome and introduce Graham Sidwell from Pottermore to take us through their journey of building a new interactive story experience called Quidditch Through the Ages by J.K. Rowling. Could you tell us a little bit about what Pottermore does?
Sure. We're the digital publisher of the Harry Potter and the Fantastic Beasts series and other audiobooks and ebooks from the Wizarding World. We're a global publisher, so we produce the ebooks and audiobooks in over 20 languages, including Arabic, Japanese, and Swedish. And we also distribute our products worldwide. And I guess what makes us a little bit unusual is that we focus solely on publishing a small list of incredible stories that are loved by children and parents alike around the world.
What made you decide to build a voice application for smart displays?
So I guess the crucial thing is talking about how important voice is to our business. So we are storytellers. We're in the business of telling stories. And we realize that the oral tradition of storytelling is in fact much older than the written tradition. And we're very lucky to be able to tell some of the most beloved stories in the world through the voices of great narrators. So classic readers such as Stephen Fry and Jim Dale, who read the English language versions of the books. And then more recent narrations by people like Iona Watling in Spain, Schumann Fatau in the Netherlands, and Francesco Panafino in Italy. So really, voice isn't just a strategic initiative for us. It's part of the very fabric of what we do as a business and how we think as a business. So yeah, voice is our bread and butter.
Makes perfect sense. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what made Google stand out as a platform to build Quidditch Through the Ages on.
So we knew that the Google platform could make our audiobook, which already sounds amazing, sounds great. But the key difference was the Canvas features, and so it was the ability to add illustrations, atmospheric animations, some interactivity, and Easter eggs, or dragon eggs, as we called them, whilst we were scoping the project out. So it was the ability to bring that visual aspect to the audiobook that was really important to us. But the key thing was this is at its heart, it's primarily still an audio experience. And the amazing narration by the Walking Dead's Andrew Lincoln and the incredible sound effects that were made by Pinewood Studios, they're still the heart of this. But it's those extra elements, it's the visual elements of this that we think is really going to attract a new audience to this audio content.
Yeah, that makes sense. My son and I have been having a lot of fun discovering all the little bits of interaction. I don't think we discovered the dragon eggs yet, though. We're going to have to look a little further on that one. He's still a little too young for the Harry Potter books, but it's been great to start introducing him to elements of it, even before he's ready to actually start reading them.
And that's so great to hear you say that, because that was really fundamental to doing this project. It really is to sort of reach out to people who are maybe too young to experience those Harry Potter stories and give them their first taste of the Wizarding world. And if we were to present this content to them in a print book or an ebook or an audiobook, then maybe they wouldn't be so interested or keen to get involved with it. But it's those extra canvas elements. It's the dragon eggs, it's the animations, it's the interactions that we think are really going to appeal to that new younger audience and introduce them to the Wizarding world. And when the time is right for you, then you can introduce them to the Harry Potter story.
Right, absolutely. So looking ahead, what are you excited about or hoping to see more of around future assistant smart display capabilities?
Well, I think it's all about giving the consumer more choice about how they experience stories. So with Quidditch Through the Ages highlights, for example, we've selected five of the best stories from the audiobook. And what the consumer has is the choice of listening to those stories in any order that they choose. So not necessarily the order in which they appear in the book. So if they want to, the listener can start at the beginning and hear about ancient broom games and the development of Quidditch on Quidditch March. So really how the sport of Quidditch was developed. And then they can go on to and find out how modern Quidditch teams have advanced the game and some of the maneuvers that they're carrying out now. Or they can listen to it in any order they want. They can find out about the modern game now. They can jump about. It's all really down to the consumer, how they experience these stories. And I think it's anything that allows consumers, gives them choice, allows them to consume a product in the way they want. I think that's what's going to get us really excited.
Yeah, that absolutely. That sounds really exciting. Well, Graham, I want to thank you for being here and for sharing a peek into this project with us all. So it's been a great pleasure chatting with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me to talk to you today.
Great, thanks. All right, back to you, Sophia.
Rebecca, thank you for diving into the native development features in greater depth. It was wonderful to hear how Graham is using them with Pottermore and building just very high quality visuals. I just continue to be amazed about how Canvas has evolved and what partners have been building with it. I also want to emphasize the point Rebecca made about the 3 broad intents on Assistant for games, stories, and education. This is a great new feature because it, 1, provides additional discovery for developers on Assistant, and 2, it helps categorize this for users and making it simpler to access. So if you fall under one of those 3 categories, you can now register to utilize those intents. Throughout the show today, I'm going to show you a bunch of light demos commanding Google. So you may want to mute your device so that they just don't all go off at the same time. So I'm going to give you a second. Ready? All right, let's try it out and see if we can find Quidditch so that you can see the really cool visuals. Hey Google, tell me a story.
Okay, here's one from Storynori on Google Play Books. It's called Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. Many years ago...
Hey Google, play Quidditch.
Alright, The Quidditch Match by John Williams. Playing on Spotify.
Hey Google, tell me a story.
Okay, stories are fun. I have fantasy, bedtime, and adventure stories. What would you like to hear?
Quidditch.
Sure, here's Quidditch Through the Ages highlights.
Welcome back to the pitch, Quidditch enthusiast. I must say it's rather nice having a fellow fan here with me to go over highlights from Quidditch Through the Ages. Let's take another look at Quidditch history, shall we?
Hey Google, stop.
To Quidditch history.
All right, Google doesn't want to stop, and neither do I. That game is really, really amazing. And if you're at home and watching this, definitely check it out right after the game, right after the show. So something about Quidditch makes me think about brooms, or at least the new technological version of brooms. So let's take a look at how to start your Roomba by iRobot from a smart display.
Hey Google, start cleaning.
So that's obviously not me in the demo, but I do love the Roomba by iRobot, and I use that feature a lot. Now, let's hear from our next guest, Alex Selig, who will give us some insight into the interconnection between devices in the home.
Thanks, Sophia. I'm really excited to share what the team and I have been doing to enable the Google Assistant to control your favorite media devices, whether they be a TV, game console, cable box, and more. The developer program that enables this is called Works with Hey Google. And we already have a lot of the top brands that you know and love, and we're getting many more as the year rolls on. We're really excited to see what you and your developer teams can do with the Works with Hey Google integration. What I want to dive into specifically today is how we light up multiple surfaces, mobile, voice, and displays, as well as the multimodal interactions that inspires and enables for all of us to use and enjoy every day. So without further ado, I'm going to dive right into talking about those different surfaces. Specifically, the assistant is actually enabling not just voice control, but the actual controls on mobile and displays. And so we're seeing unique, seamless interactions across these surfaces for our users. Users get up from the couch, pause the TV with their voice, and sit down again and resume the episode on their display. And it's really beautiful to see how that transition happens seamlessly. Another element of this that I want to dive into and just clarify is that these devices are actually talking across devices. So it's not your dedicated remote necessarily, but also all of those assistant devices that might be in your home today. And that is where we see some really unique user journeys light up. Specifically, when you talk to a display, for example, we actually have this unique dynamic of multimodal interaction, where I can ask for a change in volume, and the assistant can respond, okay, but at the same time, I can get the detailed feedback of what's going on right there on the display itself. And I can dial it in even more with my fingers. And so what happens here is that you get the level of interaction and depth that you expect with voice that's short, sweet, but also the depth of high fidelity control that you would want from a touch interface, all in one place. And users really love that multimodal dynamic. The next piece of this is actually also really exciting to see is how these journeys cross between devices. So we just recently launched Disney Plus ability to cast to a display. And you can envision yourself cooking and watching your favorite episode of The Mandalorian, for example, and then pausing and then resuming that episode on your living room TV as you eat dinner. And this seamless journey can all be done with voice. This is something that hasn't been possible before. And that seamlessness is what we want to enable. Let the user live more and worry about their devices less. What's really interesting also from a developer perspective is you get all of this value with one integration. And so what's happening here, just to go a little bit under the hood, still at 10,000 feet, if you will, is that when the user makes a request, pause the TV, it's sent to the Google Assistant, which then translates that into an execution command that's sent to the developer cloud and then to the device itself. So ultimately, no matter the surface, Google will translate that into the command that the partner developer cloud can understand, and then the device in turn can react to. This is really powerful, so you get so much value out of a really reasonable amount of work. The developer documentation is all available online at the following short URL, this Google short link /assistant-smarthome-docs. Again, that's the short link /assistant-smarthome-docs. And we're really excited to see what integrations you decide to light up and really growing the whole ecosystem of devices that work with the assistant. And without further ado, I'll pass it back to you, Sophia.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to see how easy it is to switch between devices in the living space. I love going from the kitchen, watching something while I'm cooking, and then continuing after dinner on my living room TV. Controlling entertainment is one of the perks of a smart display. And I want to show you the demo Alex talked about because I think this is something that not a lot of people know about, and every time that I show it, people get really excited. So let's try it. Hey Google, play Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Alright, playing The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
What are you doing?
Hey Google, stop. See, I loved it. I think it's really, really cool, and I wish we had more time today to watch The Mandalorian and play Quidditch together, but I promise that this works across all of your devices, so if you have a Disney Plus account, you can definitely try this. And how many of you actually watch voice talks through the smart display? If you haven't, that's another thing that I would that you can try. But today, I don't want to try it live because I don't know if it's going to affect the live feed. So instead, I can just show you what maybe Voice Talks episode 3 looks like. Hey Google, play Voice Talks episode 3 on YouTube.
Playing Voice Talks on YouTube.
Capabilities that allow developers to build great immersive gaming experiences. Stop. It's so weird watching voice talks while doing voice talks. I think it's a little bit too meta for me. But you see, it works, and you can try this out for your next episode. We'll be checking in very soon on your responses onto our earlier question, how do you use Smart Display to add a little magic to your daily routine? And remember to add your response in the chat or using the hashtag AskSophia. Next, we're going to learn even more about the beautiful relationship between smart displays and smart TVs, as Kailyn Mason from Google interviews David Rutnick from Visio. Take it away, Kailyn.
Thank you, Sophia. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me on Voice Talks. I'm the business development lead for Google Assistant focused on smart home for entertainment devices. And you just heard from Alex Selig talk about this entertainment platform and how we're really innovating with partners to bring this to life for consumers. I'm joined here today with Dave Rutnick, the Senior Vice President of Interaction and Monetization at Vizio. And we're thrilled to have you on the call. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Caitlin, for having me. Super excited to be here today.
So to kick things off, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your role at Vizio and how voice fits in with your goals.
Sure. So my role at Vizio is an amazing role. We help bring products to life. And so when we think about television today as primarily a streaming opportunity, what's going to happen in the future is a whole new onslaught of interaction and the ability for consumers to use the television to get new services and to do things they've never been able to do before. And so with that, we see voice as a gateway to make that happen. We're projecting by 2022 that over 50% of households will use voice at some level or another. And so what we're really focused on is how do we create engagement opportunities that are very, very complex and use voice systems to make these things happen. And this would have been really, really hard to do years ago or even today with a remote control with up, down, left, right, and enter. And so what voice allows us to do is to take the things that you can't do with a remote control and make it very, very easy.
It's interesting to hear how voice is unlocking these new opportunities for you. How are consumers responding to the Google Assistant integration with Vizio?
Yeah, we're really excited about our partnership with Google. We've seen hundreds of thousands of activations with Google Assistant. And what's amazing too is that we see them use Google as a way to start a television experience, do things within the television experience, and then ultimately when they're finished, they actually can tell the television that I'm done and I want to turn off.
How do we bring this to consumers at scale, and what are some of the biggest barriers?
Right, I think the biggest barrier is education and making people aware of services and the breadth of the services that are available. So when we think about that, we really want to target intersection points. And what I mean by that is finding something that is very common to an individual. And we don't necessarily know what individual will find which intersection point. And a good example of that, when I put a Google Assistant with my mom, it was audio and playing music that became the intersection point for her. And so as we continue to go through the process of finding different intersection points, once we have that, then we can begin to offer educational pieces to tell consumers what components, what new components are available and how people can use those.
Yep, that's very interesting. Everyone interacts with voice in a very different way, and you need to make it personalized to them. So finally, what excites you about the future of smart homes and TVs?
So we see a number of different components. One is, kind of this granularized approach where we can offer control at a very, very targeted level. We can offer security, we can offer personalization with their entertainment. So we see this as the heartbeat of the home. The television is on the wall, it's central in the household. And combining voice with television allows us to do all kinds of things that we've never been able to do before. And it's really about the control, the ability to watch things, the ability to search for things, but also be able to control things, whether that's cameras or lights and sound bars. The opportunities are kind of endless. And so we see ourselves at the very beginning stages of what we can do with voice and how that can interact around the household.
I love that phrase, the heartbeat of the home. And it is exciting to realize that we are on the very beginning of this journey, and we have so much potential that voice and innovative technology partners like Vizio can bring to life for consumers. So thank you, Dave, for joining us today on Voice Talks. We really appreciate your time and your insights to share with this community.
It was a great pleasure, and thanks for having us, and we continue to look forward to collaborating with Google on a go-forward basis.
Thank you, Kailyn and David. It's wonderful to hear about how Visio utilizes Google Assistant, and I absolutely love that you see your smart TVs as the heartbeat of the home. I'm also glad that you can use Voice Talks to help share with the world all of the capabilities of how you're using voice to make the experience with your TVs even more magical. Now, speaking of magic, which we've done so a lot today in the show, let's see how you're adding some to your daily routine. So I'm going to see the comments that you've been submitting. All right, and so we're doing 3 comments. The first one is by Andy. I have a YouTube fireplace playing on it at night, safer than a candle. I love this. I use this too. I'm a big fan of fireplaces, so I don't have one in my apartment in New York City, sadly, but I do this also when we're maybe watching a movie at night. The next comment is by Dene. Dene uses it to remind me of all the sessions, meetings, and webinars that I attend. Very important, Dene. I feel like today we have an excess of meetings, so we definitely need those reminders to keep us on track. And then the last one is from Lawrence. Since the local schools are now virtual, I keep track of my daughter's school weekday schedule. I've set up reminders for each daily schedule. Lawrence, this is amazing. I love this use case that sort of like arrive out of what's happening in this world with now virtual schools. So I'm glad that the smart display has been helpful for you. So now to announce our favorite, I'm calling a very special guest, my uncle Fernando, to announce who of the 3 of you will get a smart display. Fernando is the co-founder and chief technology officer of Intrepidus, and he watches this show religiously. So let's see if he's watching, and let's see if he's available using Google Duo. Hey Google, call Fernando.
Making a call to Fernando Valentiner on Duo.
Let's see. Hi, Fed.
Hello, Sophie. How are you?
Good. I know you can see me, but you can only see a little bit of me. But everyone who's watching Voice Talks is seeing you, so welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Have you been watching the episode today?
I have, yes.
And did you see the comments that people submitted?
I did see, and since I get to pick the winner, I have a lot of coworkers that have kids studying at home. So I know that they need all the help that they can get, so I'm gonna pick Lawrence.
Yay! All right, that's a beautiful way of picking Lawrence, so thank you. And Lawrence, you heard it. We're gonna be sending you a smart display. We wanna add even more magic to your life, and I know even though times can be tough right now, we need to find the special moments whenever we can find them. So we hope that you enjoy it. And then to receive your device, please be sure to connect with a moderator in the chat so that we have all your details and then we can ship it to you. Thank you, Fed, for announcing the winner. And so before I let you go, so I know you're a big just like Android, Google Assistant, smart display user. So tell us how the smart display adds a little bit of magic to your life.
So I got my first smart display from Sofia, actually. It was my wedding gift last year. And then one day I'm at home and I'm trying to figure out where my phone is, and I couldn't find it. And I think, hey, my phone is connected to my Google account, so maybe this works. So I just go, hey, G, where's my phone? And soon enough, it starts ringing like 3 rooms away from where I was looking. So that was one of those magic moments where it really helped me, and I didn't know it actually had that feature.
No, that's incredible. So first of all, I did give Fernando his first smart display for his wedding. I recommend it for people that are near and dear to you. It's a really great wedding gift. But Fernando did tell me about this, and I was surprised because at the time it was sort of like a new feature, and so when he tested it, I thought it was pretty magical that he didn't know that it was gonna work. He just tried it and it worked. So I remember when you shared that with me, and it was pretty great. I know you also use the smart display a lot when you're having dinner, so can you tell us about that story as well?
Yeah, so I'm a huge history buff, and what I do to keep things interesting with my wife during dinner, we ask kind of like where all the ingredients in our food came from. So it's interesting to see how like rice comes from Asia, obviously, but tomatoes come from South America, and like Italian food has a lot of tomatoes. So it's very interesting to know like where everything is and all the history that has happened for that food to be together in your plate.
No, that's incredible. I had never seen anyone use the smart display for that purpose. So Fernando, just as a newborn, and I feel like the newborn will grow up being really inspired and really knowledgeable about where his food comes from. So thank you, Fernando, for being on today's Voice Talks and for watching every episode. I will call you later tonight. So thank you. Ciao, Fern. Hey, Google. Hang up. Awesome. And so now that you've seen a few different ways of utilizing the smart display as the gateway to the home, let's talk through building smart display experience with developer advocate extraordinaire. So please join me in welcoming our returning guest, Jessica Dene Erlicha.
I'm Jessica, and I'm part of the Assistant DevRel team. We support assistant developers with developer tooling, docs, client libraries, samples, code labs, and more. When building an action for smart displays, there are a few common questions that we hear. For today's segment, we're going to go over easy ways to incorporate visuals to your action with inline responses, creating immersive visuals that render as a full screen web view, tips and resources for building Canvas actions, learn how to request technology access, and finally, leveraging for smart home actions. So let's start off with the simplest and fastest thing that you could do for conversational actions. If you have an existing conversational action and you want to take advantage of smart displays, but don't have a lot of resources or time to invest, you can use inline visual responses. These types of responses are listed on our docs as prompts. Let's go over the 3 types, starting with the simplest implementation. You can add suggestions, which are suggestion chips. These make it easier for your users to quickly tap a response, and it also provides a few options for your user so they can have more context on how to respond. You can implement suggestions by adding suggestions and titles to your prompt in the Actions Builder. You can find code snippets for all 3 types of responses on our docs and GitHub. The second type are cards. You can use basic cards, image cards, or table cards. These are designed to be concise and to present key information to users. And finally, the third type are selection responses. These are lists and collections. With these, your action displays an array of options and your user can select one of them. Again, check out our docs and GitHub samples on how to implement any of these inline responses. Now, if you want to do more than inline responses for your visuals, you could render a full screen web view. This takes us to our next question. What are interactive Canvas actions? Before we dive in, let me show you an example of an interactive Canvas action. Interactive Canvas is a framework that allows developers to add visual, immersive experiences to conversational actions. There are 2 main parts to Canvas actions, the conversational action and then the web app. The web app is built with web technologies like HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. The Interactive Canvas API connects the conversational action and the web app. Let's do a quick walkthrough on how these technologies work together. Imagine a hypothetical action called Cool Colors that changes the device screen color to a color that the user specifies. After the user invokes the action, the following will happen. The user says, "Turn the screen blue" to the assistant device. The Actions on Google platform sends that user input to your conversational logic that will either match an intent or a slot. In the conversational action, a Canvas response is added to the prompt and is sent to the device along with any metadata. For this example, most likely the metadata will contain the color blue. The web app has callbacks already registered with the Interactive Canvas API. The onUpdate callback can execute custom logic for your web app and make the defined changes. In this example, the onUpdate callback reads the color from the metadata and turns the screen blue. Because these are web technologies, there's a lot of space for creativity and building amazing experiences. Check out our docs and recently launched Interactive Canvas with Actions Builder CodeLab to learn more. Interactive Canvas has been available for games for a few months, and the ecosystem has learned a lot. And this leads us to our next question. Where can I learn more about making Canvas game actions? So we recently launched our games portal. It plays with tons of resources to help build great games for the assistant. You'll find things like our new game design guide, code samples, interviews with game developers and designers, and case studies. Check it out by going to Google/assistant-games. And speaking about games, we've had a lot of interest in our continuous match mode, and developers have been requesting this technology, which leads us to the next question. How can I request technology access for continuous match mode? So first, let's go over what continuous match mode is, and then how you can request to access the technology. So continuous match mode lets you leave the device's microphone open for a set period of time while listening for a list of words you specify. This allows for gameplay where users can shout out potential answers, and it could signal to the web app if it hears the correct answer or correct word or phrase. Developers would need to provide a new configuration, which consists of the list of expected words or phrases. The Interactive Canvas web app will receive a callback whenever the user's response matches with a word in the list. Just note that developers won't have access to the raw user queries themselves. The continuous match mode ends at the configured time, or the developer can use the API to end the mode. Once the mode is ended, the action goes back to the traditional conversation turn-taking mode that normally we expect. To apply to participate, you'll need to meet the access criteria. Be an experienced game developer that has launched at least one high-quality game on a platform like Facebook Messenger, Line, Snap, or WeChat, mobile games such as games distributed through the Google Play Store or Apple App Store, visual games on voice platforms such as Actions on Google with Interactive Canvas, or Alexa with APL or Web API, and submit a company website containing links to any launch games. You can apply for requests for access at this link. You can use the continuous match mode feature to build game experiences on both Google Assistant smart display devices and on Android phones. Access to continuous match mode is limited, and applying does not guarantee your participation. We'll reach out in the following weeks if you have been selected to be a participant. Pivoting from conversational actions, we have a question for smart home developers. How can I leverage smart displays for my smart home action? Touch controls like brightness sliders or buttons for turning a device on or off give users a way to optionally engage with your smart device through a graphical interface. They can provide visual feedback confirming the device's state changed. If your smart home action supports any of the supported device types or traits, then touch control are automatically enabled. However, touch commands are ignored in the cases of any traits that require two-factor authentication. You can see all the device types and traits with built-in touch controls on our docs. Do you have a technical question? Feel free to post them on Stack Overflow and tag them Actions on Google. For any other questions, post them on our Reddit community. Do you want to stay up to date with our latest announcements? Follow us on Twitter. And of course, if you want to learn more, check out our docs and get hands-on experiences with our code labs. Thanks for having me.
It is absolutely wonderful having Jessica for this regular Ask the Expert segment. She breaks down in such an accessible way. Thanks again, Jessica, for joining us monthly. And one of the brilliant things I love about Google Assistant is how it can help answer complex questions and execute tasks. And our next guest, John Kelby from Bespoken, put our devices through some rigorous testing. And I must say, I'm pretty proud of the results. Here's John.
Thanks a lot for having me. Very excited to be part of Voice Talks. I am John Kelby. I'm the founder and CEO of Bespoken, and we're excited to talk to you about the Virtual Assistant Benchmark. A quick background on us: we help enterprises deliver great AI experiences for voice and chat. We work with a lot of great companies that are out there, from Mercedes to Spotify to Roku, and we work with companies to really help them deliver the best possible voice applications for their users. We do this by providing testing, training, and monitoring. Our testing ensures that the voice app is functioning correctly, make sure that it's working at the highest level of reliability. Our training is for the interaction and intent models, essentially for the AI piece, optimizing that. And our monitoring is for making sure that really everything is working really as perfectly as possible on an ongoing basis. So we keep an eye on the application, we make sure that all those pieces continue to function correctly even after that initial testing and training is completed. We do all this using a combination of virtual devices as well as physical test devices. Between those two, we're really able to cover just about any scenario that you can think of. And we use these tools to perform this benchmark. And our goal with it was to provide insights on something that we hope is of a wide interest for people, to do it in a way that's really repeatable, and also show off our tools as well as what we think are some best practices for building voice applications. What we did is we took a data set of questions and answers that was based on the Wiki Answers website, which is a crowdsourced question answering site. These were questions that are intentionally rather difficult. I think if you spend time really perusing them, you might even say that they're sort of almost unfair. We took these questions and ran them against Apple Siri, Amazon Alexa, and Google Assistant to see how well the assistants would do at answering them, knowing that they were rather difficult. And what made these questions complex? Well, complex has a specific meaning in the context of this data set. It means questions that can be comparisons, which players are taller than Wilt Chamberlain, or what was the Pixies' first album. It can be questions that are compositional, which means that they're made up of sub-questions, like what films featuring Tom Hanks did Steven Spielberg direct, or who were the parents of the lead singer of Thin Lizzy. And it can be questions that are temporal, such as when did Trenton become the capital of New Jersey? Those are the sort of specific challenges that the assistants had to deal with this. And they did really very well. So what you see here are the overall results. And I think given the complexity of the data set, they all did well, but you can see that Google's performance is really rather remarkable. And I would say even surprising, but perhaps less surprising once we really kind of dug in and spent time with the data set. And the reason is that when we were trying to figure out, well, okay, let's make sure that we did everything correctly, that all the questions and answers are right. Well, typically what we would just do is take the question and put it into a Google search. And it would almost invariably come up with the correct answer. Even when it was a really tough question, even when it was poorly phrased, or somewhat difficult to even understand what was being asked, it would still come up with that correct answer. So really, it's a remarkable achievement for these assistants, but at the same time, it does show areas where they can improve. In terms of the complex questions versus simple questions, we see that the assistants did sort of at a similar level with each, but they certainly do better on the simple ones, and particularly Alexa or Google and Siri do better on the simpler questions versus their performance on the more complex ones. Another finding we would highlight with our benchmark, looking at it across topics, you can see that there's different performance depending on the topic. And Google does really very well on all of these, But if we take a category like music, you see that there Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa are doing about the same. And that's an important consideration if you're evaluating AI platforms, is to look at not just how it's doing generally, but how is it doing within that specific domain? And how is it doing for your use case? It's good to have one that generally does well, but then you also want to make sure that it excels for your use case. And those are important things to look at when you're trying to select a platform. We think every bit as important as the results themselves is the process we use to get to them. Everything we did here is completely automated. We didn't have a bunch of humans acting like hamsters, running these tests over and over, sort of chanting at devices. We did this all automatically using our tools. We gathered the data using this data set. We did the testing. We told you a bit about that. The next step that we're typically doing, we weren't doing it here, but we typically do this for customers. We do training based on those results. And our training is used to really then improve the performance. And we're usually able to do this quite dramatically. We can cut errors between 80 to 95%, increase accuracy to 90 to 95% or even higher, really make significant strides on that training. We're not doing this here because Google, Amazon, and Apple, they already have large teams that do that sort of tuning. But for most of the people out there, they don't have that. So we're really happy to help folks with it. And then additionally, we do the monitoring. And you'll see this with our benchmarks as we plan to run this again. Because it is fully automated, we intend to run this at a regular interval, and we'll show you how the results change over time. Additionally, I want to highlight that we use our test robot. This is a physical test device. It actually puts out audio via a speaker, captures responses with a microphone and camera. With this, with our virtual devices, we can really, or we like to say with this, if you can talk to it, we can test it. We can cover pretty much any scenario you can think of with voice. And then lastly, I would say we've done all of this in public. You can look at the actual process by which we ran this out on GitHub. You can see the code. You can see the logs of the runs. You can see the actual granular results. We've tried to make it as transparent as possible. We're using GitHub Actions for this. We're using Metabase for reporting. A lot of open source and free tools to do things in a way that we really think are best practices. We want to do it transparently, and we want to do it in a way that we think is a way that everyone should do it. So we encourage people to check it out. You can ask questions of us. You can critique it. We love the feedback. And with the feedback that we've gotten so far, it's really encouraged us into other benchmarks that we're going to look at. One of them is around ASR performance, and we're particularly going to focus on digital contact center technology like Amazon Connect, Azure Communication Services, Dialogflow, Twilio Voice. That's going to be coming out quite soon, just later this month. So do be on the lookout for that. We plan to run a test on NLU performance as well soon after, hopefully by the end of this year. And then we're always looking for other suggestions on what's of interest for these benchmarks. So please do make suggestions to us. So with that, like I said, we really appreciate your feedback. We've already had a lot of great conversations on this. We hope to have more to keep learning. Just keep testing. So thanks a lot for having me on here, Sofia.
Thanks, John. It's great to see the process that goes into doing these tests and the transparency of it. And I agree, this is a truly remarkable achievement for all assistants. And it's exciting to see how well Google Assistant performs. We hope that this inspires you and our partners to continue building multimodal experiences with Google Assistant. And if you have any suggestions of upcoming benchmarks you'd like to see, do get in touch with Bespoken. With that, it is time to end today's episode. And I want to thank our incredible guests this month, Rebecca, Graham, Alex, Caitlin, David, John, and Jessica. Thank you all for sharing your expertise and insights and for inspiring us. As always, thank you to the crew behind our scenes and to you for joining us for episode 6 of Voice Talks. I can't believe it's been 6 episodes already, and for sharing your thoughts and ideas with us. Before we leave, I do have one last demo I want to share. This is another practical way of using the smart display to turn on and off your lights, and perhaps even set the mood for your apartment. Hey Google, turn on Spotlight.
Got it. Turning the spotlight on.
That is really bright. Hey Google, turn off spotlight.
Sure. Turning off the spotlight.
So I know we all know this use case very well, thanks to Philips Hue lights. But today I can turn on my spotlight. And tomorrow we might as well be able to produce the entire Voice Talks production via voice by just saying, hey Google, let's go live.
Sorry, I don't understand.
I know, but the future is near Google, and this is a fun prediction that I have for 2021. Come back for our next episode on December 10th and hear more predictions for 2021 from an array of industry leaders and celebrate with us all of the industry advancements that have happened during this year. And of course, we want you to participate, so tell us your predictions using the hashtag AskSophia. Thank you again to everyone for watching, and I'll see you on December 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Ciao!